Hey, good afternoon, Garrett.
How we doing, Denver? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well. We've got a good group of people already jumping in here and ready to get started for today's power session, which is going to be over the accounting dashboards in the
I like,
analytics marketplace here.
yeah, a lot of good stuff in there for if you're controller, CFO, on the accounting team. So let's touch on the executive dashboard, maybe some customer analysis, change orders, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple of these pulled up, so let's jump right to it here. And as always, if anyone has any questions or anything throughout it, throw it in the chat and we either answer it as we go or save a couple minutes at the end to make sure we go through any questions here. But
Yeah, absolutely.
so since we're going to focus more on the analytics side of things today, you said customer analysis. We'll make sure we have that one up too here. I got probably 5 dashboards here that I tend to see the most usage for, the accounting team, those more looking at kind of the bigger picture as opposed to maybe individual projects here. But I do want to, the first one, we're going to look at this project data health. We won't spend too much time, but it's always worth bringing up for anyone that might be newer to the platform or haven't really used, a dashboard like this. So project data health, while simple in nature, I think can provide some good, a good look at all the jobs and how we have them set up from the start. So the reason I like showing this one off is if we're going to get into things like the revenue forecasting, cost forecasting, or making sure that our jobs have the right project classes or project managers set up, it's a good way just to spot check all the setup, all the jobs, make sure they're at least configured in a way that way if we're looking for certain filters or if the revenue projections, we need to make sure we have our start and end dates filled in. It's a good dashboard to at least just kind of check to make sure everything is filled out. And if you want to apply any filters, I can say, well, maybe I want to look at the contract values. This pie chart will say, all right, 16 of them are missing a contract, 47 of them have it filled in. So if you wanted to filter it, you could click it and then we can see which jobs in this case do not have a contract value filled in. And so, like I said, from a data integrity or, making sure that things are set up properly, this is my go-to dashboard for the different fields here. And as we always say, if there's more or less that you want to see on these reports, you can most certainly get into the custom report writer to add in maybe the project state or the customer, whatever else we want to see on there.
And we can export these, that's correct.
Yep, that's a good point. So if we're in the chart itself, we can hover over it, 3 dots, export. I would use Excel or PDF. The data one's probably not a format you would use very frequently, if ever. So just use one of those 2 formats, and you can set it out to Excel and then it puts in a nice format that we can open up here. Now, the only thing we may have to do is just worry about the color of the text here. So with this one in particular, so. Okay. All right. So from a setup perspective, project data health, great one to take a look at just from a setup perspective. Some of the other dashboards we have pulled up here to show off, we'll go through the customer analysis, the executive dashboard, company monthly billing report, and then the AR analysis report. So we'll start here. Maybe we'll start with the executive dashboard. Now, this dashboard has a lot of great information in it, right? We've got kind of our financial section over here on the left. So if we wanted to look at something from 2025, if you want to filter the months down for this financial section here, and say, all right, how have we done through August so far this year, depending on how you have the configurations here. But out of the box, we're going to look at gross profit year to date, gross profit margin, anywhere with the arrow, you can drill down into. So in this case, we're looking at gross profit dollars compared to the gross profit margin year over year. So you can make sure that you can see a little bit more detail behind those. So then you've got your revenue to date, plotted month over month. And then as we're looking into the backlog. Now, real quick, the difference between these two numbers, we get this question a lot. Revenue backlog is going to be how much revenue we still have yet to earn on our jobs, right? So we're comparing percent complete versus percent billed, and the contract amount. And then the billings backlog is essentially just remaining to bill. So that's the difference between those two. And if you want to see a little bit more detail, click the arrow and it will show you all your jobs, what the contract amount is, how much revenue we have to earn, and then how much we have left to bill. Cash balances, making sure that we've got all of our appropriate cash accounts mapped in here. Clicking into the arrow will show a little bit more detail as far as which cash accounts, what the balance is to date. We can have the system show us, what's the activity for each month for each account. So total debits, total credits. I know some systems might just give us the net amount rather than credits and debits, but we'll show you your activity for each one of those accounts listed here. Then we've got cash this month, so just the net. So when it says this month in a lot of the dashboards, we're looking, so it's October, right? So we're strictly looking at October net cash, and then this would be our essentially total debits, total credits for that period as well. Okay. AP and AR, if you've got kind of all your charts here, if you want to go looking for the detail, you can click into the arrows on those. Now for the payroll stuff, the check date is essentially what you're selecting here. So if we wanted to look at last week's or the last paycheck there, you can make sure we pick the date. This will show us our gross payroll earnings for the week. So gross pay, not net pay, not considering taxes, just total gross pay here. And if I want to go looking for more detail of it, you can click in the arrow, show us our average payroll runs for each individual week. Then we can show kind of maybe some of our hours for each individual employee or anything like that. But department counts, how many employees are in each one of those different categories here. Project health will be more of the job side of things. So you can flip flop between, how much percent billed we are, percent cost, total job costs for each one of those individual jobs. Now, some of these are kind of already in order, but if I wanted the bar to be in order from like greatest to smallest, you can go to this left-hand metric column here. If you right click on it, you can hit sort descending. It'll put them in a nice order. And that way, if you wanted to hover over them in order of, in this case, job costs, you can see it there and then be able to click in and see a little bit more details of monthly costs, monthly billings, profit margin, change order statuses, but you can see that as well. So a lot of great information, a lot of, combining financials with payroll, with AP, with AR, with job costs. So you get a little bit of everything on the executive dashboard. So if there's different metrics you want to see in there, everyone has the same ability to create these types of reports in the self-service environment. And I think that's where the beauty of ProNovos is, right? You guys have access to all this data to build out any other KPIs. Because if we wanted to like take out the payroll section, add in some other high level metrics in there instead, we most certainly could do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, obviously we've seen this come up before, just in terms of the sensitive payroll information that's in there. So maybe also touch quickly on just limiting permissions to who they might want to see that.
It's a great comment there, Garrett. So within each of the individual dashboards, if we go up to the top, so under settings, right, executive dashboard is probably one of two dashboards that we should make sure are permissioned out. So we should go into settings. We should change this to say custom. And then what I've seen most frequently is say for the executive dashboard, specifically admin, executives, maybe finance and accounting, depending on how you have the users set up in the directory. But generally speaking, admin executives are able to see it and nobody else. So then that way, as we're clicking through here, PMs aren't going to access the executive dashboard, the estimators, maybe even finance and accounting, depending on their roles within ProNovos as well. So all you got to do, change it, hit done. And then from that point moving forward, only those two user groups in the security settings can access that report. Okay. All right, so a couple other dashboards I like showing off would be around more the billing side of things, customer, AR. I think I'm going to start with the company monthly. We'll go to the aging and then the customer analysis, but the company billing report, all these once again are in the analytics section. So the idea of this report, really to look at the month, be able to see how many jobs we have, how many of them we've billed out, total cost, total billings, right? But since we're looking at October in specific, we're looking at all active jobs. We can scroll on through here. We can see based on the number of jobs that each project manager is assigned to, how many of them have not been billed, how many of them have been at a billing, right, in October, or how many of them are 100% billed through October. So if we want to filter out things like the missing billings chart, because essentially what you're looking for here is all the jobs that had costs so far in October in our scenario here that have not had a billing created in October as well. So if I want to see, hey, what are those 3 jobs that haven't been billed, right? You can click it. You would see the jobs list out how much cost we have and then what we are expecting to bill. And it's basically just taking our costs, applying our profit percentage and marking it up and then giving us, that rough number of what we should bill, right? So if we wanted to flip flop through the different PMs and say, which jobs do we need to bill out? We can get our list pretty quickly here and see that. And then at the bottom, you have kind of your project breakdown, a faux WIP, if you will, billings, cost, percents, over, under. So a quick snapshot of all of those jobs as well, but can be super handy during the billing process, just to say, okay, out of all of our jobs, it'll organize it based on cost and then what we should be expecting to bill for each of those jobs.
I like how easy it is to filter on each PM. Just give you a snapshot on the right there.
Yep, absolutely. So if you wanted to change it up, maybe you want to see it by customer, I don't know, it gets pretty lengthy, maybe not the way I would look at it, but you can change, add more options, project class or things like that. So now we've gotten into what we want to bill for the month. Maybe we want to see what's currently out there in our accounts receivable. We do have a dashboard. Obviously, under financials, we have the AR collections as well. We're going to focus on the dashboard version of it. So in the analytics, accounts receivable analysis here. So it's a nice, clean, quick way of looking at the data, what's outstanding based on our invoice date, how many days past the invoice date. Those totals fall into total retention. If I want to go look at the detail of the retention, we can see it here, right? Which customers, which jobs, what's still outstanding in retention. Now then down below, basically your aging report just kind of condensed down, right? So customer, job, where those invoices lie within the aging buckets, and just what's out. So the outstanding, it's just referring to the accounts receivable portion, not the retention amount. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through this and making sure that you're seeing what you need to see, right? If you want to, Oakland Construction has, it'll like I said, nice to kind of get all of your summarized information about your open receivables for all of your individual projects or customers, but yeah. All right. And then the last one, just keep it on the train of billings customer. We'll go to the customer analysis. Really cool thing about this one is if we wanted to look at, any particular customer, we can say, all right, let's look at Oakland Construction. We can see all their open projects here, contract, budget, cost, profit margins, right? But as we click through and see just our active jobs for any given customer, trying to find one that has a couple in there. No, in any case, we can see, right, active jobs, but then you have your different tabs along the top. So if I want to go looking for outstanding AR, same number that we saw before, based on our buckets. And then we can also look at our average, I guess technically median days to pay. So if I wanted to look at the last 6 months here, I can kind of get my filter in place for dates. Maybe I want to do 12 months instead. So what it'll start showing is all of the invoices, when they got paid, and how many days it took to pay each one of those invoices, and then what our median, or if we wanted to change it to average days to pay was for that particular customer. We can start plotting it all in here, and that way you can start looking at trends, right? We want to know roughly how quickly each customer's, turning around their payments on their invoices. So a nice quick snapshot of that as well. And then change orders, if I want to see change orders per customer, I can see those here as well. So yeah, I think a lot of the accounting dashboards that we've seen here, obviously a lot of great information out of the box, but just kind of making sure that, as anyone is using these dashboards, making sure that, if anyone wants to see any different information, we're more than happy to help out, work with you guys, and make sure that, if we need to make any edits to these reports, we most certainly can.
Absolutely. We'll take any requests and bring the dev team and at least try to give it a go for you.
Yep. Okay. So I think that's the list that, that's roughly our timing for these power sessions. So we'll open up here if there's any questions, any comments, concerns, anything that you guys want to ask while Garrett and I are here. We'll hang out here for a couple minutes and make sure we get those answered. But if anyone else drops off, we appreciate you guys sitting in for today. I think our next power session is going to be in 2 weeks. It'll be covering the administrator settings, so permissions, and security, just high level admin settings. So that'll be on the 4th. That'll be our next power session here.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I know you covered it in implementation, but questions kind of come up from time to time and people need a refresher, so be good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll give it another minute or two here in case anyone's typing up any questions. But if not, then we can call it a little early here and If you guys do think of anything in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to Garrett or I. We'll be more than happy to help out any way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for your time today, Denver, and we will see everyone in 2 weeks. Thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Garrett. We'll talk to you guys later.
Yep. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.